How we doing, everybody? I thought this was fairly interesting. What does Bitcoin correlate with? Well, here's a particular chart, and at the moment you can see that it's got a correlation with the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq index. So that tells me Bitcoin's being treated like a risk-on asset, and at the moment, a little bit of a negative correlation between the US dollar index, gold, and even the US 10-year yield. So that's just a bit of interest. Speaking of interest, crypto size, very small or very big, depending on how your worldview is. So here's a market cap bit of information here. So there's Bitcoin, second from the bottom, 1.15 trillion US dollars. The total crypto market cap, $2.59 trillion. But have a look at the assets just above, particularly gold. 10.4, the market cap of the S&P 500, and then of course the global M2 money supply. Look at that, 106 trillion. But who would have thought after about 12 years, there's Bitcoin over $1 trillion. So that's something to be very, very mindful about as well. Just it's being adapted around the world. Now, another thing that's been spoken about of late is just inflows of money into Bitcoin funds. Recently, there were two exchange-traded funds that are futures-based, listed on the Nasdaq and on the New York Stock Exchange. And you can quickly see from this particular graph here that the inflows are pretty steady. They're going up, whereas look at the outflows for gold. So that's very interesting. Go back to that previous table. Gold's a 10 trillion asset class. Who's to say in time that the money that trickles into Bitcoin doesn't hit to 2 to 3 exact from that point of view? So that's just something to be mindful about there. These are the money flows that are actually happening right now. And on another side note, there's inflation. And for those that don't know, inflation's really is a silent killer. Here's a particular graph or graphic that just illustrates how inflation has changed the price of a cup of coffee over the last 50 years. Look at that, 1970 it was worth 25 cents and 2020 was $1.75. So the price of that cup of coffee has increased 7x over that time frame, and that's what inflation is. It's a silent killer. Now, what's actually happening right now in terms of that? Well, I like to talk about transitory and persistent inflation. And here's a chart here from Bank of America that sort of illustrates that transitory inflation is what we have now. That's what the Fed's going on about, meaning they don't expect it to stick around for long. But the permanent inflation is sitting around the 75 mark. Let's go now to the same graph, but this one was reproduced in September. Hey, look at that. Persistent inflation is now the same as the transitory. And that's probably why JP Morgan came out and said just recently there's a perception in there that Bitcoin is a better inflation hedge than gold. And that's probably one of the main reasons, in their opinion, there's been this big current upswing triggered by a big shift away from gold ETFs into Bitcoin funds basically since September, and that previous chart sort of illustrated that. So anyway, just a bit of quick information about what's the state of play. Hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure you smash the like button down the bottom there and stay tuned, and we'll catch you next time. Take it easy.